Hey there, I'm Tony DeCopo. This is The Uplift. We got a great show for you, a great cast of characters as well. Among them, these, a couple who returned after the LA wildfires found a welcome surprise back at home, a diamond literally in the rough. Also, a Minnesota teen with Hollywood dreams. At 17 years old, she produced her own movie. And a powerful story of resilience from a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor. Plus, not one, not two, but three heartwarming stories from David Begnaud. All that and more good news. You know what you're watching, The Uplift. Welcome to The Uplift, the show that lifts you up for at least the next 30 minutes. You, I like to say me as well. We're going to begin with a love story between a man who, despite his disability, did not set limits on his life, and the woman who fell in love with him because of that optimism. Here's Caitlin O'Kane.
They say don't judge a book by its cover, but that's how this meet cute starts. It began when Elizabeth Wampler accompanied a roommate to pick up a friend who needed a driver because he has cerebral palsy. Stephen was born with the condition, which causes muscle weakness and affects a person's ability to move, something Elizabeth was not well versed in.
I didn't know what to say. I was afraid because I assumed he was sad. I assumed he was having a rough life, and I assumed he didn't have any friends. So what if I opened my mouth and I said something that made him more sad than I assumed he already was? That's how off I was.
She was so awkward.
Yeah.
And so uncomfortable. It was like, oh my God, this girl is just...
What is her deal?
What is her deal?
After that first awkward encounter, Stephen and Elizabeth kept bumping into each other at dinner parties, and the ice from their first frosty meeting started to melt.
We just kept being thrown together. And then, I could just watch people enjoy him so much, not as the token friend with the disability, but he's irreverent, he's funny, he's responsible, he dresses beautifully, he's an ethical, good human being.
Soon, the pair went from acquaintances to friends to partners.
This guy was in front of me, and I was learning so much about a human being. And it's fine for me to admit how green I was, how little I knew, but I didn't know just how full his life was.
Elizabeth learned not to judge a book by its cover, but she still hadn't yet learned just how amazing the book of Stephen's life would be.
When we were far enough along in our relationship, I would say, how are you going to hold a baby? How? And he would say, I don't know, but I am not the least bit worried about it.
It seems Stephen's story had no limits. They did go on to have 2 kids, and together they created the Stephen J. Wampler Foundation, which runs Camp Wamp, a fully accessible summer camp for kids with disabilities. Stephen gives motivational speeches and has gone skydiving, and he went on to become the first person with cerebral palsy to reach the top of Yosemite's El Capitan.
We've had an extraordinary experience together. Many, many, many remarkable things have happened. We both believe that our lives would have been really different without finding each other.
In July, they will celebrate 30 years of marriage.
We were just meant to be. It was one of those. It was just easy and smoother than you would think, in spite of it all. So we've never had massive struggles. And
every fight was had.
Shut up. I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
Exactly. All 4 fights. Her fault.
Ridiculous. Kind of true.
Yeah.
But ridiculous.
So don't judge a book, read it cover to cover, and you may see a world you never imagined.
Everything that I thought was hard turned out to be not just better, but extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I credit all of that to Stephen.
Coming up, a story about a literal diamond in the ashes, how a couple found a precious gem in the debris of their home. And a Minnesota teen is breaking into the movie industry. The 17-year-old shares her very real dream of making it in Hollywood. At 17 years old, Ava Justin has already started her own production company, written a screenplay as well, and made her own feature film. Susan Elizabeth Littlefield introduces us to the Minnesota teen with Hollywood dreams.
You're going to be gone the whole summer?
I'm sorry, there's no other choice.
I would say family-friendly, teen, rom-com, drama.
Ava Justin didn't just watch that movie, she manifested it.
We had a sold-out movie premiere, which was absolutely amazing to me.
It's a feat she started working toward at a very young age.
I started out as a baby model, and then I got into commercials and then films.
The Brooklyn Park native spent her childhood traveling to and from Los Angeles.
One of my first memories was in elementary school. I did a dance act at the Kids' Choice Awards.
But amidst the triumphs, there have been trials too.
The entertainment industry is so tough. There are so many talented people, and oftentimes, there's hundreds of actors who are auditioning for just one role. So rejection is something that comes with the business.
How do you process the rejection part of the business?
Oftentimes, it's not personal. Just don't take it personal and learn the value of perseverance.
And she has done just that. At 17, she decided to make her own way in the world of entertainment.
Part of the reason I started my production company is to give myself more opportunities and to give other people more opportunities as well.
She and her family funded Ava Justin Productions. And then the horse lover had an idea.
I was able to work with a writer here in the Twin Cities who was my mentor and my co-writer, who helped teach me all of the processes of screenwriting.
So this is hours and hours and hours.
Yes, writing is very time consuming. That's another thing. The amount of time that takes, just to write a few pages and to make it intentional.
In just 6 months, she was in production. She had a script about a teen who lost her mother, navigating grief and adolescence, filmed on a Medina farm with local actors.
There's that beautiful granddaughter of mine.
The movie was quickly picked up.
I was 17 at the time of making the movie, and to know I make this movie and it will be out for the world to see on many different streaming platforms, that was a really surreal feeling, especially, as a first-time filmmaker.
It won't be the last film. She's got 2 more thrillers in the works, all while being an influencer and getting a degree in business and film at the University of St. Thomas. And to think, at just 19, this is only her first act. What do you hope people take away from your story?
Don't give up, follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you that your dreams are too crazy or it's not realistic. I think that when you put your mind to something, you really can make it work.
You proved it.
Thank you.
After the Eaton fire in California, a couple returned to their home in Altadena to find basically nothing, except for a real gem. Here's Luz Delia Caballero from CBS News, Los Angeles.
It was just hey, look, will you marry me?
This is the moment Ryan McShay and Stephanie Rayner got engaged.
She said yes. We had a mask kiss, and we just had a big hug.
It happened where their house once stood, a home that vanished in a matter of minutes as the Eaton fire swept through their community.
We already knew it looked like this, so it was, we knew most things were gone.
When the fire came, McShay was in Pennsylvania for his grandma's funeral, while his then-girlfriend was at home. And though she evacuated along with their pets, she never thought the fire would get close to where they lived.
And so I pack an overnight bag with my pajamas, the dog and cat food, and the dog and the cat. And I'm like, all right, we're just gonna go to my in-laws' house for the night, and I'll be back in the morning.
But that never happened. Soon after, the landlord told them the home they lived in was gone.
First thing I did was I broke down.
Eventually, the two came to see what was left of the home, ready to search through the ashes.
I came with the purpose of finding my great-grandmother's jewelry. She left me 2 rings, and my grandmother also left me a ring.
And McShay was looking to find the engagement ring he hoped to propose with in February.
You know, you'd see things like I pick up a ring and it would be a washer, and I'm on my knees digging through stuff, brushing away ash. And I picked up a little ring, and then at the end of it was a diamond. The ring is all black, but the diamond was shining.
Next thing you know, he turns to Rainer and pops the question.
And I have goggles on over my glasses, and I start crying, fogging up, and I'm like, of course, yes. And that's where he found the ring.
And while getting engaged here isn't how either of them envisioned this moment, it's now become a beautiful symbol of their unwavering love for one another and their continued commitment to overcome hardships together.
You know, to go through something like this and then by the end up engaged is incredible.
Of all the things to be still there, that's the one.
But the good news doesn't stop there.
I found my grandmother's ring too. We were meant to find them.
The newly engaged couple now hopes their story can bring light in a time when it's needed most.
The ring made it, so I think we all can make it if we all have some hope, gear up, and do the work.
In Altadena,
literally a diamond in the rough.
Lustelia Caballero, KCAL News.
Coming up, a powerful story of connection. A 94-year-old who survived war, 3 concentration camps, and the loss of 41 family members. The woman who met him decades later knew she could not change history, but she could try to make amends. We now have a story about a Holocaust survivor and the woman who connected with him knowing she could never change history. This story is an inspiring one, but we do warn you, it contains images that are difficult to watch. Here's Natalie Morales.
On a winter's day in St. Louis, Holocaust survivor Oscar Jacob enjoys life's simple pleasures.
I did it.
It's a far cry from his youth in Romania, where in 1944, Jews were rounded up and sent to Auschwitz. 13 at the time, Oscar survived by claiming to be older. He was put to work while 41 family members were put to death.
And I wanted to say goodbye to my mom and never had a chance. They would be killing about 500 people at a time. And if the crematorium was overcrowded, that they couldn't burn the bodies that fast, they would burn the bodies on the outside.
How afraid were you every day?
I was afraid because they would just take the rifle butt and they just hit you as hard they could.
Months later, he was forced to travel without food or water to the Nazi camp Mittelbau-Dora. There, prisoners toiled in underground tunnels, building the V-1 flying bomb, Hitler's vengeance weapon.
The conditions in the tunnel was horrible. Prisoners, they just couldn't continue working so many hours and so hungry and thirsty. So they would take a pause without permission. But they grabbed these prisoners and they hung them in the tunnel. The rest of us were forced to punch the dead bodies that they were hanging.
It sounded like a tank in the sky, and it exploded with deadly results on London.
The V-1 was the world's first cruise missile designed to terrorize and kill civilians.
6,000 people dead, 17,000 injured.
Fast forward to 2013, and a world away, Gabrielle Lesser-Rico was dying of cancer and stunned her daughters with a final request to finish her memoir. Suzanne Rico only knew her mom grew up in Germany during World War II. This image of her grandfather hung in Rico's childhood home.
We would say, Mom, tell us about our grandfather. And she would say, he was a genius. And that was it.
But in her mom's photos and films, Rico uncovered a family secret. Robert Lusser, her grandfather, was the Nazi engineer behind Hitler's V-1.
Das ist V1 im Einsatz.
You can't fool yourself about what it was used for. It was a killing machine.
A former local anchor for CBS News, Rico was used to asking tough questions. So she confronted her Nazi ancestry in a podcast, The Man Who Calculated Death.
What amends can you make when you can't go back and change history?
She and her sister traveled to Germany and walked the tunnels of Dora.
You know, you can feel the The souls of the dead, the damage, death and destruction, all of that went so much deeper. And it became really clear to me that I needed to talk to somebody who was there.
A Holocaust survivor group connected her with Oscar, who agreed to a meeting.
Oscar, how did you feel when you first heard from Suzanne that she was the granddaughter of the man who created this weapon of mass destruction?
Well, be honest with you, I was very skeptical. I didn't know if I can trust her.
And my hands were shaking. Was it going to be somebody who was angry, who blamed me? Rightfully so.
But Oscar welcomed her into his home, and an unexpected friendship has grown.
What
was it that she said to you?
She said, I'm sorry. And no German never said to me, I'm sorry what happened to you and your family. And to me, that meant a lot. And God bless her for that.
We joined Oscar and his family as they visited the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, where Oscar's story is among the survivors.
See, that's exactly how I looked, like a skeleton.
Oh my God. 4 years after the war, he recalls sailing into New York Harbor.
We were dancing and laughing and joking, and we just couldn't take our eyes off that we're in America.
He met Margot, his wife of 67 years, and together they raised 4 boys while he worked as a plumber. His free time was spent at a nearby farm where the animals helped him cope with recurring nightmares.
On a daily basis, I cannot forget. It comes back over and over again.
Now, at 94, with 8 grandchildren, his message of never forget is sure to live on.
Coming up, 3 inspiring stories in one from David Begnaud. Stick around. What do an 18-year-old graffiti artist, a wedding officiant, and a 102-year-old all have in common? Well, they are all subjects of David Begnaud's Dear David series.
Last year, we introduced you to 18-year-old Jaden Bruns, a teenage artist who got into some trouble after graffitiing city property in his hometown of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The city's mayor, Paul Tenhaken, is also an artist. When he saw the graffiti vandalism, he responded in a way that surprised everyone. The mayor summoned Jaden to his office and told him that he'd have to face the consequences. But then,
Let's see it, my guy.
The mayor commissioned a piece of art from Jaden, which the mayor paid for personally.
My hope is that other people see this sort of thing in their community and say, hey, you know, when we have a teen or a young person who's maybe made a wrong step here or there, let's not discount them. Let's give them another shot.
Our story went viral. Viewers who saw it stepped in to do more. Jaden was hired to paint a mural at an elementary school in Sioux Falls and asked to do the exact same for a pizza place in Minnesota. And then a viewer from Los Angeles called him and hired him to illustrate a children's book.
Without this story, I don't know where I'd be. It's been really weird, but I'm excited for it to get more weird. Just more stuff, better, cooler art, bigger stuff. I'm so excited.
Rock on, Jaden. Because of Jaden's story, the mayor is in the process of establishing a public art wall where graffiti artists like Jaden can do their work legally. All right, story number 2 is now about a man who's been to 5,000 weddings. Y'all meet Rob Green. Green was the mayor of the tiny town of Jefferson, Pennsylvania, until he retired 14 years ago. When he left the job, there was one thing he refused to quit: officiating weddings.
Hello, Mr. Begnaud. I thought you might find this story interesting. It's about a man they call the marrying mayor. Among some of the weddings Rob has performed include one on a Ferris wheel and on a flatbed truck in a junkyard. Rob never accepts money from active military. He just shakes their hand and thanks them for their service. As you can see, Rob is quite an extraordinary man, and a man I am proud to call my husband.
With this ring, to me, it's something a politician should want to do because it's a positive footprint that you're leaving in somebody's life.
And you like forming families.
And I love creating the families.
At 78 years old, Rob Green is about to officiate his 5,000th wedding.
People say to me, you know, what is the record for an individual doing marriages? I said, basically, I don't care. It's what I enjoy doing. When you're retired, do something you enjoy.
Amen, Mr. Mayor. You know, the mayor says he does 4 weddings a week during the slow season and as many as 8 weddings a week in the busy season. Wow. All right, one more thing. A woman came up to me in the Chicago airport this week to say that she loves our stories, and because of them, she thought that I might want to meet her 102-year-old mother-in-law. I said, heck yeah, I want to meet her. Her name is Beatrice Stieber, and you are going to love her. I started by asking, what is your secret to longevity?
I never paid attention to age, never. I drove until I was 98. You roll with the punches.
Amen.
That's the truth.
Amen. But any secrets, anything you did that you think...
The secret to me
Yep.
is attitude and gratitude. Attitude and gratitude. Attitude and gratitude.
I love that. Where did you grow up?
In the Bronx, New York. New York, New York! It's a wonderful town. I grew up in a home of such love, such care. I was like an Adonis, like a queen.
Beatrice, we live in a world where it's like you have to, you know, some people work out 7 times a day and they think that's the secret to longevity, or, you know, they only eat plant-based food. They think that's the secret to longevity. Did you do any of that, or you ate what you wanted and did what you want?
No, you want to give me a hot dog right now, I'll eat it. You have to, you see the good things. Do not have tunnel vision. Do not. When you walk, when you see, when I walk into a restaurant, I met a new person who joined us. We went to the ladies' room. I said, oh my God, what beautiful wallpaper on our way. To this day, it's 20 years, she calls me up. She said, I will never forget you telling me about wallpaper. Whoever dreamt of looking at it?
Take the time to admire the wallpaper.
Take your time. When you have trouble, when you have pain, when you have illness, you become friends with that illness. You become friends with the pain. Then when you're friends, you don't hurt each other. You're very good-looking, gorgeous man.
Thank you very much. It was such a delight. Best part of my day.
That's our show. I hope it brightened your day. I hope it lifted you up. If for some reason it didn't, go ahead and press play again. Meantime, I'm going to find some good news.